Everyone, welcome to the ScrapbookPal.com YouTube channel. This is Misty from the Jolly Fiddle. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's card, I'm going to be featuring the new Quadrant Backdrop die in the Quadrant Backdrop Builder Stencil for a really fun kind of retro themed card. So there's also a hot foil plate that goes with this. Unfortunately, I do not have a hot foil machine yet. Santa did not bring me one, but maybe I will get one from the birthday fairy in April. But if you have a hot foil plate, I highly suggest that die because, as you'll see in just a little bit, I do have some white borders and that would just look so much fun with a colored foil. So I went ahead and put down some grid paper. I picked up mine from MFT and I am putting just some washi tape on the back of my die, and that's so it doesn't move. Now I tried to use my kind of magnetic platform, but I was terrified I was going to screw it up. So I was like, we'll just use a little washi tape on the back. It'll be okay. So I'm going to be using some distress inks with this. I have the oxides and spun sugar and shaded lilac, and then I have distressed inks and saltwater taffy and cracked pistachio. So this is very much a kind of pastel theme color scheme. This is actually a color scheme that's in my master bedroom and my craft room. So I love it so very much. And what I love about the distress oxides is, of course, they're very opaque and it's a very smooth blend. And I really, really love that. And I ended up doing that the same way with the distress inks. I have to tell you, I'm not as familiar with the distress inks as I am with the oxides. I'm not a huge watercolor painter, so I never felt the need for the regular inks, but these two colors are just too pretty to ignore. So again, I'm just using some old washi tape. If you're a crafter and a planner, you probably have a ton left over like I do. So I'm bringing in some spun sugar. So this is very much a pastel pink. It's so pretty. I don't necessarily have pink in my craft room. It's mostly purple, aqua, coral, and green, but there's a little hint of pink here and there. It's a really fun color theme, color story. And since we are transitioning from, kind of the holidays into winter, I thought this would be really fun. This is going up, I believe, on January 2nd. So happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. That still feels so weird to say. My husband and I just celebrated our 13th wedding anniversary, which also feels really weird to say. So we hope you had a good holiday season and are just like raring to go in the new year. Picked my word. I am ready to go. So initially I thought I was going to bring in this Pinkfresh ink, but as you can see here on the bottom left, I'm kind of testing out the colors, and that's when I decided to go ahead and grab my distress inks. Now I store my little ink pads in jewelry holders. Actually, these are earring holders that I picked up on Amazon. They just hold these little cute little ink pads perfectly. And in my Alex drawer, I have them in the third row down. They stack. I can get probably 5 in there, and right now I have 3, so they work beautifully. Isn't cracked pistachio such a pretty color? You would think that it was more green, but it's not. It pulls this beautiful kind of tealy blue turquoise. I absolutely love it. So pretty. So as per usual, all of the supplies will be linked in the description box down below. There's also a coordinating blog post if you want to check that out. I am so excited for the new year. I always get excited for like crafting again. Like I take a breath around the holidays. I'm like, okay, we're done with Christmas. Even though I love Christmas, this is my favorite time of year. I'm ready for some new fun things, and we have Valentine's Day coming up soon, so you'll probably start seeing some of those crafts. I know that ScrapbookPal got the new Lawn Fawn release, which is so stinking cute. Love, love, love. So much fun. It's just like new stuff and new beginnings and all of the newness. The new year is just all of the newness. So once I get all of my colors down, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some scrapbook adhesive 3D foam squares. I'm going to use some of the big ones on the back, but also some of the small ones as well, or I'll just cut them up And I put a lot. You probably don't need to put quite this many, but I like to have a lot of structure behind it. I didn't want there to be any point where it could be pushed down. And sometimes I sell my cards, so I wanted to make sure that if I sold it to someone, it would make it and survive. So you may not need quite this much, but I added them. So this is going to go on the front of a regular size card base and measure 4 1/4 by 11. I scored it at 5 1/2. Now I'm going to bring in the modern script sentiments from Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm bringing in this kind of piece of, to me, it's kind of a periwinkle purple that I had, but it matches shaded lilac perfectly. And this was just something I had in my stash, so I have no idea who made this. But I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. So I am using some tape to put this down. This comes as one huge stamp, and sometimes it can be hard to get your magnet in when it's a big stamp like this. But I do put the magnet on top just so my foam won't slide around. I make sure to wipe off the stamping part of the stamp on my hand to kind of remove some of the static. And then I will pull it up and down off the paper until I feel like all the static is gone. I used a static remover bag from INKADINKADO and then inked it up with VERSAMARK ink. I'm going to bring in some FAWN Rose Gold embossing powder. This stuff is so pretty. I wouldn't call it rose gold. I'd call it more coral, but I guess since it's shiny, you could kind of call it rose gold. But it's a really pretty powder. It's very, very fine because this script is also very fine. So I felt like it did a really good job at coding the words, and you can actually still read them because sometimes that can be a little difficult with embossing powder. So I heated them up until they all melted, and I'm bringing in the dye, which is also all together, which helps. So this is a really fun sentiment stamp to have because you can do them all at one time, which I absolutely love. And you may not use them all on one card, but you can always put them aside and use them on a different card. So again, I'm just using a little washi tape to hold that down, and we get them all out. And I've decided to use Many Thanks, You're on My Mind, and then You're the Best. So one thing that I think sometimes we forget is, like, this time of year, some of us need some thank you cards. Maybe you've gotten a gift from somebody you weren't expecting or anticipating, and you weren't able to return the gift, etc. So I think this is a really fun one to send. So you saw me taking a picture, and that was because I was concerned that the sentiments were going to blend in with the background, and they did a little bit. So I'm going to do what you could consider a drop shadow. So I went ahead and cut out the sentiments again with just some white paper, and I am going to glue the embossed sentiment to the white, but offset it just a little bit to make it look like a drop shadow. And this is a really good, like a really fun technique if you just want to add a little bit of dimension. But again, if you find that it's like blending into the background, this is a great thing to do. And again, it's just a little bit of white showing, not a whole lot of white showing, but just enough to get it to pop up a little bit from the background. Now I'm just using an old stylus tool to kind of dot the glue on. I just put a little bit on that scrap piece of cardstock. Sometimes that's easier for me than trying to dot it onto the back, especially when I'm trying not to get glue everywhere. So you can see I'm just scooting it over just a little bit. There's just the teeniest, tiniest little offset there. So, and you could do that with foiling or foiled paper. You could do that with glitter paper. You could do it with black. You could basically do it with whatever color you wanted. And again, it's just a little bit of white showing to give it some dimension. So I'm going to bring in some small foams from Scrapbook Adhesive. Again, all of this is linked down below, and I'm going to cut them all in half. And I just use my scissors for this, and I cut down a whole roll. Again, I'm going to want to add at least 3 or 4 pieces of adhesive to the back of these sentiments, and I need it to be pretty skinny. So this card is a little tall, but I don't feel like it's as tall as like a shaker card would be. I don't think you would need extra postage for this, but I think that also varies by your post office. So if you were concerned about it, you can always put just a scrap piece of cardstock on the front of it to mail it like that. And that's a true statement for like if you have a shaker card or something that you don't want to tear, then you can always just put a piece of cardstock, and it doesn't have to be thick cardstock, just a piece of cardstock in front of it when you put it in the envelope, and you shouldn't have any issues. And if you're really concerned, you can sometimes take it to the, almost said airport, Misty, post office, post office to have it hand canceled. I've never done that myself. Again, I just put it in an envelope, and sometimes I'll put a piece of chipboard or another piece of cardstock on the front. I also have a postal cell, so if it's over a couple ounces, then I'll throw an extra stamp on. So I'm going to bring in some of these dots from Pinkfresh Studios. These are the iridescent ones. They are so pretty. I love them so much. So I think I end up adding 11, which is quite a bit, but I felt like this card was one that could handle it because the background is kind of the star of the show for this, and these just really highlight the background. So once I do that, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget to follow, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow the brand over on Instagram. And yeah, that's it. Here's a look at it in slow motion. We really do appreciate you. Again, check out the links that are in the description box down below. I hope you have a good day, night, weekend, wherever you are. We'll see you in our next video. Bye for now.